How you doing, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and as you can see, we're back at it talking about the Amazins. And folks, it is with great disappointment that I say we have to have the Pete Alonso talk. And when I say Pete Alonso talk, I would like to preface, this is not going to be a conversation about me telling you how much I despise Pete Alonso or anything like that. Alonso has and will continue to be one of my favorite players during his time with the Mets here, no matter how long or how short it is going to be now. And Alonso is a guy that I've had the privilege to meet in person at Jeff McNeil's charity event last year. Great human being. Truly wish him and his family nothing but the best. So let me just get the elephant out of the room. This has nothing to do with my personal viewpoint of Pete Alonso as a player, as a person. Everything that I'm going to be relaying to you all in today's video, which is a very important one, is the statistical facts behind why Pete Alonso has struggled so mightily in 2024, which has led many Mets fans having the narrative thrown at Alonso that, oh, he's unclutched, to holding true now more than ever. In today's show, we're going to break down every little detail about what is not working in Alonso's favor this year versus what we saw even in 2023, and even in comparison and contrasting with his fellow teammates and guys like Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo. So make sure to smash that like and subscribe button as you guys and gals first chime in. Greatly appreciate. This is going to be an in-depth discussion on what is going wrong with Pete Alonso and why he is now becoming more unclutched than ever before in his young career. Now, to kick things off here, let me get the elephant out of the room again. When it comes to Pete Alonso, I know we're going to have a lot of Mets fans dominate in the chat right away saying, how dare you trash on Pete? How dare you say this or that? He is our polar bear. He has been our home run slugger leading the way since the beginning of 2019. We all know that. Trust me, I do too. And I am on board with many Mets fans that do want to see Pete Alonso in a Mets uniform beyond the 2024 season. But you want to know what the problem is, folks? Pete Alonso is doing himself absolutely zero favors to make that potential a reality. Outside of lowering the potential pay in which he's going to land in the offseason based on his lack of performance this year, Pete Alonso is not doing himself a great favor whatsoever to sway the likes of David Stearns and the Mets front office brass as a whole heading into the 2024 offseason. Because we all know Pete Alonso is not going to be traded. That's another thing where, unless you guys still firmly believe that, I got a bridge to sell you, it isn't going to happen this year with the Mets right in the hunt of a wild card spot right now. Likely will be in said area or right on the outside looking in by the time we get to the trade deadline. So naturally, the Mets are fully equipped and ready to be both buying and selling by said deadline. So Pete Alonso might not be dealt by the deadline. However, his future in Queens is all but certain, and there are multiple reasons as to why exactly this is. So let's get into them all. But before we do, let's hear a quick word from our amazing sponsor that you guys and gals know very well, America's #1 sportsbook, with our great friends at BetUS. Because if you guys haven't gotten involved with BetUS already, you better now. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button as your first chime in, as it is the easiest and best way to support the channel. One, but two, click that link in the description down below right after. That way you too get 125% bonus, and not your first, not your second, but your first 3 deposits. And as we do our daily and nightly MLB picks and just sports betting picks as a whole with America's #1 sportsbook at BetUS, we are going to take a look at some lines here of the baseball slate that we currently have tonight as I record this around 2:30 p.m. Eastern, July 22nd. We have a boatload of games today, and no, I'm not going to have a biased Mets bet in there, so don't worry. If you guys want to tail my bets, bet responsibly with our great friends at BetUS. No, I'm not a betting expert. I'm just a diehard sports fan who certainly loves to get involved and throw some parlays in there when it is deemed worthy. And I think today's a perfect example to get involved with a 2-pick parlay, because there's a couple lines I love right away. We got Tark Skubal, who might be the Cy Young Award winner out of the AL this year, facing off against former Met Cookie Carrasco and the Guardians. Yep, I'm absolutely taking Detroit there just because of Skubal alone. Then we got the White Sox and the Rangers. That can really go either way with the way the Rangers haven't been playing consistently this year. But then we look up at some of these other matchups like the Cardinals, the Pirates, which is a close one too. We also got the Astros, Athletics. Absolutely love the Astros in that matchup. Phillies, Twins. That's going to be a heated battle between the two. Red Sox and Rockies. I like this for obvious reasons. So this is going to be my 2-pick parlay, everybody. Should you tail, again, make sure you do it with our awesome friends here at BetUS. That is a $10 bet that's going to win you just under 20. So again, guys, if these two hit, if they both win outright, that is an easy win of a 2-leg parlay. Check them out today. And once more, shout out to our great friends at BetUS. But to hop back into this one now, folks, and what we got to get into on Pete Alonso, this has a lot of numbers backed behind it as well, so bear that in mind. Pete Alonso, going back to even the 2023 season, was still a guy that even while he had far from an ideal season, his clutch numbers, his ability to hit in runners in scoring position, his ability to hit in wins versus losses, it's still pretty much a night and day difference versus what we're getting at the 2024 level, and that's why we need to highlight this today. Pete Alonso, in the deepest lineup he's ever been in his young Metropolitan career, has nothing to show for it. I know you're going to say, Wardy, the guy's got 19 bombs, 51 RBIs, and over a 700, just under 800 OPS, around 760 or so this season. Not terrible numbers by any stretch. Why are we having an individual discussion? It's a great question, and the simple answer is, for a guy that's batting right around 19 and 20% better than the average batter in baseball, you expect a lot more from Pete Alonso, especially with the power protection now in front of him and behind him that we have seen this year with guys like JD Martinez, Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez, just to name a few. And as we take a deep dive now, folks, at just how drastic these splits are for Pete Alonso, this is exactly what I have to say about the following. In wins this season, everybody. Yes, you heard that correctly. In victories for the Metropolitans, Pete Alonso has a 220 average and a 714 OPS this season. In losses, Pete Alonso has a 258 average and an 821 OPS. Just for some context on how that compares to other current Mets batters, let's look at Francisco Lindor, for example. Lindor, a 347 average and over 1,000 OPS this year in victories. And losses, a 155 average and a whopping sub 500 OPS. Safe to say when the Mets are winning, it's because of guys like Lindor leading the way big time in that regard, because he is not leading the way in games where the Mets find themselves losing. Brandon Nimmo, let's take a look at him. Wins and losses, another great example. In victories, a 302 average and an over 1,000 OPS. In losses, a 181 average and a sub 600 OPS. Let's even take it back a little bit further here, folks. Let's go all the way to 2023 Pete Alonso. How did he look in victories versus defeat? This is the clear sign, which tells you there's a problem. In losses, Pete Alonso had a 253 average and a 634 OPS, roughly 200 points lower than he currently has in losses this season via OPS. In victories, this is where things are quite different. A 273 average, 383 on base percentage, a 638 slug for over 1,000 OPS. Pete Alonso in a one-year span has went from a guy that in victories now had over 1,000 OPS, being a clear provider in that regard to how those victories happen, to now the complete opposite, a 714 OPS, 8 home runs this season in 48 games. Last season in 72 games where the Mets won, just 72, Pete Alonso still had 29 home runs to a whopping currently 8 in wins versus 11 in losses, and last year in losses he had 17 in those 82 losses. So that's just on the win-loss differential there, everybody. Okay, so yes, not ideal, but not the end of the world. Now let's transition into the deeper numbers, the most important numbers that we broke down in yesterday's post-game show too as well, and they are as follows, everybody. With runners in scoring position this season for Pete Alonso, let me make sure that I have it properly pulled up for you all. There we go. A 213 average, and we're looking at a 701 OPS. That is with runners in scoring position. When we look at Pete Alonso in 2 outs and runners in scoring position clutch situations, a 231 average, a 729 OPS. Late and close ball games, a 140 average, a 581 OPS. In tied ball games, a 187 average and a 639 OPS. Again, that isn't terribly far off from one of the other Mets I'm going to reference in a second, but just to show you how different these are versus last year's numbers, ahead in the ball game, a 218 average and a 666 OPS, which is not good for a lot of reasons. And when we are behind in ball games, Pete Alonso has a 314 average and over 1,000 OPS. Furthermore, when we look at leverage, high leverage, Pete Alonso this year has been absolutely garbage. A 206 average and a 737 OPS. A medium leverage, a 215 average, a 607 OPS. And in low leverage, this is where garbage time Pete Alonso stands out once again. See the whopping 13 home runs in garbage time, low leverage, 277 batting average, and a 932 OPS. This is Pete Alonso that in the month of July had an over 270 average and a just under 900 OPS. Now, that was in the month of June. Now enter the month of July. Pete Alonso currently has just under a 600 OPS and is batting just over 200. Not ideal whatsoever for Big Meat Pete, Polar Bear Pete, Pistol Pete, however you want to call the Polar Bear. And in comparison, and really contrasting, I should say, with his 2023 numbers, this is where things are even more glaring, right? Because when we look at the runners in scoring position, Pete Alonso in 2023, a 257 average, a 918 OPS with 12 home runs. Very respectable versus having a measly 3 home runs with runners in scoring position out of his 19 bombs in the 2024 year. When we look at him in 2 outs and in runners in scoring position, a 222 average, but still 829 OPS. Late and close, a 192 average, a 692 OPS. A tied ball game, 171, 689. So it has been great there in those tight ball games, as is, however, ahead in ball games, a 260 average and a 980 OPS. Behind in ball games, a 218 average and a 795 OPS. What does this tell you? Pete Alonso's had his most success easily this season when he has been in lower leverage and in situations where the Mets are not going to find themselves in the win column. He just has not been the same guy that you would like him to be. And high leverage in 2023, Alonso with a 219 average and a 820 OPS. Huge difference that we see there. Not huge, I should say, but roughly a 100-point difference there from 2023 to 2024 on the OPS. Medium leverage, we see there a 223 average and an 812 OPS. Low leverage, 208 average, 832 OPS. So pretty even keel no matter the leverage situation that Alonso was in last year versus what we're getting here in 2024. And that leads me to my greatest point in today's discussion. Pete Alonso sadly has fit the bill, has fit the narrative of being an unclutch batter for the New York Metropolitans. Again, as I emphasized earlier, this comes in a season where Pete Alonso has had more power protection and more true offense around him than he's ever had in his young Mets tenure since arriving back in 2019. And just to shed further context before we wrap this one up on Pete Alonso, let me tell you a bit about Pete Alonso in the 2023 season again. If I didn't mention it already, if I did, I apologize, but ahead in ball games in 2023, a 260 average and 980 OPS for Pete. Who would have thought that when he saw his 2023 season, right? But the numbers tell you different. A 218 average and a 795 OPS when they're behind in ball games. So even Alonso, who was in a lot more losses last year than victories and had an up and down wishy-washy 2023 with the wrist injury to Charlie Morton and not being able to hit for opposite field among other things, even then Pete Alonso in 2023 is far more serviceable when looking at these splits versus what you're getting right now in 2024. We need Pete to be the Pete that is looking for a big payday come the offseason and step up to the plate. Because right now, what we have seen sadly from Pete Alonso this season has been an unbelievably insecure and unbelievably overthinking type player in Alonso, who has a lot of pressure, a lot of added pressure on those shoulders now as a Scott Boras client looking for a big payday after denying Billy Epler and the Mets an extension offer right around $170 million prior to the trade deadline a year or so ago. So there's added pressure to this. He knows this. He's pressing big time. I don't wish this for Alonso. Again, best case scenario, I would love for Alonso to have a huge second half here, ball out, and he reaches a deal with the Mets that makes sense fairly well for both sides, so Alonso can continue to be the home run king here in Queens. But as we see right now throughout the first 80-90 games of the season with Pete Alonso this year, yes, the baseline numbers might not be terrible, but that isn't the whole story. If you watch his team every single day, if you understand the context behind Pete Alonso, then you know very well that you've been spewing for those more pessimistic Mets fans out there, sadly, that have been against Alonso for a good portion of the year and years past, saying he's unclutch, he doesn't hit big when we need him to. Sadly, the 2024 season is a prime example of exactly that. Can Pete right the ship and change things around before it's too late for his potential future or lack thereof in Queens beyond the 2024 season? We will soon find out, including tonight's ball game at the time I record this, as I'm sure hopefully we have a series split there against the Miami Marlins. Regardless, everybody, I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below to the Pete Alonso problem this season. Do you think Pete will be able to get out of his rut and be more of a clutch batter that we have seen with other Mets batters in the lineup this year, whether it has been not so much over the past month, but JD Martinez and good portion throughout June, Francisco Alvarez, Mark Vientos, Brandon Nimmo, endless examples. Francisco Lindor, since batting leadoff, has been Kane for the most part. There's been a lot of great offensive production in this lineup, and it is nothing short of an absolute shame that Pete Alonso has not been able to be the batter that he hopes to be and wants to be and expects to be here with the Mets in 2024. Drop your thoughts down below on the future or lack thereof of Pete Alonso, and what are your initial thoughts again on these drastic splits here with runners in scoring position and clutch situations, among others. Drop them all down below. Thank you all so much for watching, everybody. We'll be back with consistent coverage on the Mets for post-game coverage, trade-related coverage, and everything in between here on the channel every single week, as we always do. So until I talk to you again, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. And this is your boy Wardy signing out. Let's go Mets, baby. Let's go Pete. I want you to be better than what you are, Alonso. We all do. Please do not have the fans turn on you more than they already have for a team a couple games above 500. Offense is far from their problems this season. Let's make sure it doesn't get to the point of being a problem. Pete Alonso, do your job, baby. That's all we ask. Talk to you guys again real soon. Peace out.